Welcome back, guys. Today we are going to talk about moonshine versus whiskey. What is it all about? Let's figure it out. Let's figure it out. Come on. All right, guys, welcome back. So somebody told me the other day that intro was too long. I don't know. What do y'all think? Let me know. My buddy Germ from Freedom Malts made that for me. We've already talked about that, but it was a gift, and I enjoy it very much. And so we'll just see. We'll see what happens. And another thing I'm trying to do. So if I take pauses and things like that, I'm trying to articulate what I'm saying so that I don't have as many uhs and ums and yeahs and you know what I'm trying to say. It's difficult. I am so used to doing and this and that, and it's hard because my brain, I guess, or my mouth, one of the two, is going faster than the other. So I say things and then I'm like, my brain has to catch up, or vice versa, whatever that is. Anyway, today we are going to talk about moonshine versus whiskey. Now, it might be a little tongue-in-cheek, I'm not going to lie, but because we know what moonshine is and we know what whiskey is, right? But there are a lot of correlating things in moonshine that are actually in whiskey as well. So, always distraction. Always. My wife comes in. I have a sign that says I'm recording. Like, don't come in. Anyway, it's not plugged in right now. I'm an idiot sometimes. It's fine. So, I don't even remember where I was at, but it's fine. We are going to talk about the differences between moonshine and whiskey, and I'm actually going to sip on a little moonshine. Yeah. So, what I have for you today, boys and girls, and the Patreon at home will have the video of this, and they'll be able to see what I'm actually sipping on. This is Tim Smith's Climax Moonshine. I don't know why he called it Climax, but whatever. Pot distilled, original recipe from Belmont Farms Distillery, Culpeper, Virginia. 45% alcohol, 90 proof. Spirit made of, I can't read that, malted barley, rye, and sugar. So we're going to pop into this. I have drank a little bit of this, and, well, I'll just give you some tasting notes later, but I'm not going to have a bunch because, anyway. Yeah. So, another thing that I'm trying to do as a creator, or whatever you want to call me, content dude, is get to the point. But here's the deal. Every other podcast I listen to, everyone, there is so much fluff, so to speak. There's so much fluff that, like, you guys know Theo Vaughn, right? Is all he is fluff. That's all he does is talk fluff, which is like stuff that's not pertaining to the topic, right? Home, what we would call housekeeping, right? That's all he does all day long and has millions of views. And I'm not trying to compare myself to Theo Vaughn. I call him Theo, like the Spanish Theo. Anyway, sorry. So I don't really know how to approach that because I want to talk about personal stuff. I want to talk about and I'm going to. This episode will include that. But I also, like, if you guys want me to just get to the point, and I will make sure on this podcast when it releases, I will make sure to put a poll up, right? I'll put a poll up, and I want, excuse me, I want everybody who's listening right now, if you are listening, please go on that poll and see, do you like the background? Do you like the talking, or do you want to just get into the meat and taters of the conversation? Because I can sit here and ramble and talk on for hours, which I don't want to do, right? I don't want to do that either. That's wasting your time and your energy. But there are people, and I don't know who, but there are people out there that like to hear the antics and the stuff that happens in life, because this is about life too. It's about whiskey, right? Obviously, it's about whiskey, but it's also about life, in my life, basically. Um, it's my show, but at the same time, I do have loyal patrons, and I do have people that are sponsoring me and stuff like that. I don't want them to feel like they're not getting anything from it. Does that make sense? They're like, "Oh, why are we supporting this dude? All he does is ramble on about how his toenail got caught in the fence, like, or whatever, something stupid." I don't want to be that, right? So there will be a poll, and we will go through the poll, and we'll see what happens. Okay. So let's get started. It is almost, it doesn't matter what time it is. So on the nose, this is the Tim Smith Climax Moonshine. It's totally clear, obviously. On the nose, it's sharp. It's pretty sharp on the nose. But we'll get into the whole thing. But it doesn't taste bad. It's not inherently bad. But it does not taste like new make whiskey. Does that make sense? It's not. It's sweet. It has a sweetness to it. It's not bitter. It's not off-putting. I think the proof is right where it needs to be. I would say it's good. It's not great though, right? Therein lies the difference. So let's get into it. Oh, no. Hold on. I have one story that I would like to share. It's going to take approximately, and I don't know this for sure, it is going to take approximately 7 minutes. Okay? So if you want to fast forward 7 minutes, please do. We'll get back to the whiskey versus moonshine. Okay? So it was last weekend, I guess, we had a family weekend. So it was my family, obviously, and Opa and the sisters and, stuff like that. We just went and we had a good time. We were able to, we got this B&B or whatever, and it was in Round Mountain, Texas. Yeah. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that, but it's in between like Johnson City and Marble Falls. I don't, if you guys don't know, don't care, it's fine. This little, one, not even a stoplight, it's a gas station town. Anyway, over there. So while we were there, a future guest, yeah, this will be out way before that one is, a future guest that's coming on had told me to go pick up some bottles. Okay. So I was like, cool. So we go to this thing in Round Mountain, and it's a cool little, it has like 3 or 4 different things. I'm getting to the story. It's fine. So we get there. We're having fun. Here's the thing with day drinking. Let's talk about day drinking for a minute. Have we talked about this before? Everybody does it, right? Everybody day drinks sometimes, not all the time. You're playing golf. You're doing a thing. You're normally drinking. Since here's the deal. I can drink beer or whatever. It doesn't matter. But I'm trying not to because beer has a lot of sugar in it. It might not taste like it, but it does. And it also has quite a few carbs. Doc's telling me I need to cut back, so I'm cutting back. I'm at the lowest weight I've been in probably 15 years. Yeah. It's just one of those things. take that for what it is. But hold on. It's kind of like, so I'm trying to figure out what I'm gonna drink, right? So I brought quite a few bottles of whiskey because I knew, for the brother-in-laws and stuff would want to drink. So I poured whiskey and ice, a little bit of water. That was it. That's what I had at like 12 o'clock, you know? And I made sure um, normally I don't eat during the day. Normally I'm just like, okay, I don't eat, it's fine. But I did. The weekend I did. And the bad thing is, what's grab and go for lunch when you're hanging out by the pool? A sandwich, right? Well, I don't want to really. Anyway, I ate a sandwich. Fine. So one time I mixed the JT Millet small batch on ice with water. Wow, dude, that was really good. It really was. Then the other time, and I realized after the fact, I was like, oh, I probably shouldn't have done it like that. I think the very first time I got the Natterjack cast strength at 63% alcohol and mixed it with water and ice. The issue is that's like an 80 something dollar bottle, right? That you're mixing with water. It tasted amazing. It was great. It was a good time. But then afterwards, I was like, you know what? This is probably not the best whiskey to be drinking on ice, and by the pool, not chugging it, but having a drink. So I switched to the JT Mellick, and then I brought Dad's Hat, the port finished rye. Brought that one as well, and so I had one of each. You end up when it's hot out, you end up getting pretty tipsy pretty fast, right? When it's hot. So and I'm not going to throw the brother-in-law under the bus, but let's just say the next morning, I was supposed to go pick up those bottles, and he went with me, and he was not feeling great. Okay, I'll just say that. And so we went to the distillery that is aforementioned, which I'm not going to talk about because this is coming out. That one's coming out after this one. It'll be a surprise. Anyway, we went there, pick up bottles, and the whole time he's like on his phone, like trying to take pictures of the distillery. Super cool, right? Because we were on a mission. Somebody had a dead battery. We were picking up a new battery for them. Like, it was a thing. We had to get ice. I had a list of things that needed to be done. Okay, so we go there, we get the bottles. We're like, all right, and I'm okay. Yeah, you heard what I said. Bottles. I don't know, dude. I'm not doing this like, I don't know, whatever. So I pick up the bottles. We leave, and we're like, okay, I really want to run by Andalusia real fast to, for one, hang out with Moose. For two, they had a RTD, ready to drink, old fashioned, but it wasn't a regular old fashioned. It was their Striker old fashioned. Okay, Strikers, they're smoked whiskey, right? But it's like post oak smoked, so it does have a little post oak, cherry, applewood. Anyway, so it's not like peaty; it's more like barbecuey, right? We've talked about Striker many times. They're old fashioned, ready to drink, and I was like, oh shit, I gotta go. So we went by there, and Moose was working. Sometimes he doesn't work on the weekends, so I was like, but he was working. So it was approximately noonish, and we go, and we're, obviously, the brother-in-law, I introduced him to Moose, and right away he's like, whoa. And I'm like, yeah, he's a lot. He's a lot. It's fun. Let's go. And so he's telling me all about what they're doing for the day, and they were having like a tiki party. It was pretty fun. I wish we could have stayed a little longer, but like I said, we had a list of things we were doing. They also had just bottled their allspice dram. Mm-hmm. Don't really know what I'm going to do with it. Obviously, make a cocktail, right? But I feel like it is really, and it was a distillery only thing. They're not going to ship it out or anything. it was just really cool to have. So I picked that up as well. But Moose goes, "Hey, uh, you ever had Malort?" I was like, "Yeah, I've had Malort." And if you don't know what Malort is, just look it up. Everybody, you know, baptizes people into Malort. It's a horrible, horrible drink. I don't know why you would ever drink it. But anyway, moving on. He's like, "Come here." And I'm like, "Oh crap, here we go." And I told the brother-in-law, I was like, "Hey, it could get weird. Just be prepared." So he's like, "Come to my office," which is the bottling room. Luckily, it's air conditioned in there, which is really nice. So we go in the back, and it feels good in there. It smells like whiskey everywhere because it just does. And he goes, "Look at this." And he pulls out a bottle and he's holding the bottle up. Well, the bottle has a bunch of green float shit in it. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. He goes, "Try this." And I'm like, "I don't want to try that. No, that does not look appetizing at all." He goes, "Hold out your hand." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So he pours this liquid into my hand. And I'm like, "What the hell are you doing? Give me a glass. You ain't got glasses?" And so I'm like trying to cup. And I'm like, "Am I supposed to smell it? Am I supposed to rub it?" He goes, "Now lick your hand." I'm like, "I'm not licking my hand. What is what are we doing?" So what do? I lick my hand, right? I was like, for one, I just picked up a battery, like probably not anyway. So I lick my hand and it tastes like, what does it taste like? Ass. No, ass tastes better than it. It tastes like if you were to take lawn clippings and chew them up and then run them through like fennel. It tasted like the bad absinthe that you've had. Basically, what it was is 100% wormwood. No, I didn't get high. No, I didn't trip. I literally had a lick of it and I could taste it. Literally, I could taste it an hour later. I had to go drink a bunch of water. It was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. He goes, "I'm still working on it." I said, "You need to be working on it because this is gross. Please stop." That's all I got to try, which was good because I didn't want to try anything, and brother-in-law didn't need to try anything. He told me when we left, he goes, "I almost lost it." I said, "I know you did," because we were kind of talking about it was, which is kind of weird. We were kind of talking about absinthe on the way up there. I don't know. It's just weird. So that was kind of a that's a very strange story. But anyway, 7, 8 minutes maybe. Sorry. Okay, let's get into it. This moonshot, this Tim Smith Climax. I'm gonna have another sip of it real fast. There's not a whole lot there. Really, there's not. The issue is the the sugar that they use makes it kind of sharp and brittle. Had it been, but then that would be considered new make, right? We're gonna get into it. Had they made it all grain, that brittleness at the end would be gone. You know what I mean? It would be gone, and you would have, you would have more flavor, and it would be as brittle, not bitter, brittle. I don't know. Very strange. Anyway, little side note. You guys know that the interview podcast that I do, not this one, the interview podcast that I do, uh, go to my YouTube as well. Yeah, they do. So if you want to go over there, watch them, it's a little bit different. It's one of those things where you can actually see the person, see their expression. And on a couple of them that we drank through some bottles, I held up the bottle and stuff like that. So you can kind of, I don't know, it's just a different thing. If y'all are into video type podcasts, the issue is like, I know for me, if I'm listening to a podcast, I'm working or something like that in the yard doing the thing, and I got my headphones on doing the thing. So I get it if you don't want that. But anyway, let's get into it. So I did, I got some papers here. Um, yeah, let's just get into it. Ready? So, whiskey and moonshine are both distilled spirits. Okay, we know that, right? But they have distinct differences in terms of production methods, legality, aging, and ingredients. Okay. I got this off of Wiki. I asked ChatGPT and personal knowledge. You know, you get what you get. I try to write notes so that I don't forget, and it makes it a little bit easier for me to stay on topic. Okay. So let's go. Whiskey is distilled alcohol beverage made from fermented grain mash, which includes grains like barley, corn, rye, and wheat. Whiskey is strictly regulated by the law. It must be produced in a licensed distillery. Blah blah blah. We know that. Whiskey is typically aged in oak, often in wood barrels, often oak. Now, this is talking about all whiskey, right? Not just bourbon, all whiskey. Uh, and then the aging process imparts flavor, color, characteristics after several years. The aging process of the grain mash bill contributes to the whiskey's complexity. Notes can be ranging from sweet, fruity to spicy, smoky, and woody, depending on the production methods and aging. There are different types of whiskeys, including bourbon, rye, Scotch, Irish, blah blah blah. Okay, so here's moonshine. We know what whiskey is, right? This is just kind of synopsis overview of the entire thing. Moonshine traditionally referred to illicit distillation spirits, often produced without regard for legal standards and typically in unlicensed stills. In modern times, some legal producers also label theirs as moonshine, but is more a marketing term. That's one of the big differences right there. We'll get into that a little more in depth. Historically, moonshine was produced illegally to avoid taxes and regulations. Today, legitimate versions of moonshine, blah blah blah, they're still doing it the traditional way, supposedly, which it's not. Anyway, traditionally, moonshine is not aged; it's bottled and sold as a clear, unaged spirit. That's why it's often referred to as white lightning or white whiskey. Because it's unaged, moonshine has a raw, harsh flavor compared to whiskey. Taste can be based on the ingredients used in the distillation products. It generally lacks complexity and smoothness, and that the aging imparts in the whiskey. Moonshine can be made from a variety of fermentable ingredients, including corn, sugar, and fruit. Corn is a common base, similar to many traditional American whiskeys, but moonshine recipes can be quite varied and unregulated. And that's, a thing. Whiskey is legally produced and regulated, whereas moonshine traditionally refers to illegal use. Okay, so that's, we already know that. Is it gonna just tell me the same thing? Okay, whiskey is versatile in making cocktails or drinking neat. It has a rich history. Most enthusiasts appreciate the heritage and craftsmanship in making the whiskey. There's a variety of different whiskeys. Moonshine's heritage is a cultural significant, especially to American history. We can get into that. It's often associated with ingenious and resourcefulness due to the early distillers made their spirits despite prohibition laws. The illicit nature of traditional moonshine production adds a sense of rebellion and authenticity to some of the people that they find appealing. Moonshine cocktails. Hey, let's get into that. Moonshine can be used in cocktails, particularly those benefiting from its strong, clear profile. It can be added to kick up a mixed drink. Some prefer to drink moonshine straight for its bold, unadulterated flavor, though it might be an acquired taste. Not everybody likes everything, right? There's no definite answer whether moonshine is better than whiskey. It ultimately depends upon your personal taste and what you seek In the drinking experience, whiskey offers a complex smoothness derived from its aging, making it flavorful to the appearance of nuance in the refined drinker's palate. Moonshine provides a bold, unfiltered taste and carries a sense of history and rebellion, which can be very appealing to others. So, moonshine is normally made of corn, but you can also use other grains like barley, rye, or wheat with water. And the main thing is sugar. They add sugar. Now, they do sometimes malt corn. They will malt the barley. They will do all the things. They um, they have a big mash tun. They use now the difference illicitly for some of the bigger producers of moonshine. They will actually ferment in the still. They will pour everything in the still, and we've all seen the Moonshiners TV show, right? That's similar to what they do. That's not exactly what they do because it's TV. They're not going to tell you everything, right? So take that for what it is. But they basically do all the same things. Moonshine production, when done correctly, can produce a high proof, clear spirit that captures the essence of the ingredients used. However, it is crucial to follow safety practices and legal regulations to avoid health risks and legal issues. All these pages, BS. You know what I mean? It's all BS. Let me see if I can make it. Oh, winner, winner, winner. All right, let's finish off this a little bit. And then we'll talk about moonshine. Let me put this up because it's riveting. Riveting. Okay. Here's my take on moonshine. How do I preface this without sounding like an asshole? All right. Moonshine has its place. Moonshine started when whiskey couldn't. You know what I mean? It's happened. People have been making liquor for thousands of years at their home. And it wasn't until very recently that they outlawed making liquor at your house. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people that still do it to this day, you know? But there are also things that, like, some of the moonshiners do it just doesn't make a great product. Does that make sense? Like, it doesn't taste as good as it should. Now, that Tim Smith stuff that I just had, it was okay. I've had better. I've had better moonshine, right? I've had way better whiskey. So that's kind of the thing. It's kind of where do you go with it? Now, moonshine has a rich history. We all know about it. Popcorn Sutton, all the things. It would be really cool, to hang out with a old school moonshiner like that and just do a run with them, and where they build the open fire underneath their still, and they're out there in the woods and they're having to get water from the creek and do all this. It's so cool, right? That is so cool that they're able to produce a product that's decent and be able to, like, get it out there and do it fast. That's the other thing. Let's talk about that for a second. So when you're making moonshine, or when they were making moonshine back then, you're doing it. That's why they call it moonshine, right? You're in the night. You have to do it in the night. In broad daylight, somebody's going to see you. So you're in the woods at night with the bears and the whatever else is out there, cougars, or whatever, and you're running liquor. That's cool. The issue is all the issues that go with that. For one, you have to get a 500-gallon pot to the middle of the woods without anybody seeing you. How the hell are you going to do that? Then you have to get all your materials there. Then you have to be set up next to a water source that you can use to put into your worm, right? And so moonshining is very similar to whiskey making. The process itself is very, very similar, but the way that they do it is so much different. Okay. Let's talk about that for a second. So in moonshine, we're hitting a stride. I feel it. It's fine. In moonshine, you obviously are making everything fast. So you're using a fast fermenting yeast, daddy, or a really high attenuating wine yeast that works really, really fast, like EC 1118 or something like that. That's what you're going to use. Something that's going to eat through the sugar fast, because you're not really worried about like grain conversion. You boil it, right? You put your corn in the pot, you boil the piss out of it for a while, and then you cool it down. You add your sugar, or your wheat, whatever you're doing. I'm talking about a corn mash, right? And then you cool it down a little bit. Then you add your yeast and you let it sit to ferment, and then it ferments, and then they ferment, or they distill on the grain, which is very difficult with open fire, right? It will scorch, the grain will settle, right? And they don't have one of those augers like they do at Buffalo Trace or whatever you want to call it. They don't have one of those augers that just keeps moving the grain around. They have to do it with a paddle. So what you have to do is you have to stir it until it starts boiling. Once it's boiling, all of the particulate will be in suspension, and therefore it has less of a chance of scorching. If you scorch corn or wheat or barley or whatever, it tastes like ass. So one of the things you have to do is you have to keep it moving. And so if you see on the Moonshiner show, they stir, 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 stir. Okay, it's moving, it's boiling. Now you got to get the cap on it, because you're like, as soon as it starts boiling, it's taking liquor out. So they get the cap on it as soon as they can, hoping that it continues to boil, which it will, because you have fire underneath it. Fire management is a big thing. We know that from barbecue, but at the same time, like, it's a big thing. If your fire's too hot, it's gonna overheat the mash that's in there, and then you're gonna lose a lot of flavor. You're not gonna be able to cool it down that fast. So fire management is a huge thing. With commercial distilling, making whiskey, it's all regulated, right? You press a button and it's done. It distills itself, right? You don't have to touch it. Just wait 6 hours and, oh, we're making a cut. Okay, cool. Move the little thing from hearts to tails, whatever. You know what I mean? Like in the woods, it's all taste, sight, what you're smelling. You have to use all of your senses. And that, to me, super cool, because that's distilling. That's being a true distiller, right? Pressing buttons on a freaking 20,000 gallon still, that's all automated by computers and solenoid valves and this and that and that. Yes, okay, that is distilling, obviously, but it takes a lot of the art out of it. Like, how do you know when to cut from heads to hearts? How do you know? In a commercial distillery, they tell you, well, I mean, they've been doing it for 100 years, so they know it's at 160 or whatever. I don't know what they do. It's not for me to know, but they're like, at 160, we move it to hearts automatically. What if the flavor's off? Well, they're putting it in 6,000 barrels. They can blend it out, right? Whereas moonshine, if it sucks, that whole batch is ruined, and you just lost out, for one, on a lot of money, and I'm sure you've got a lot of customers that are waiting for that moonshine. You know what I mean? They're waiting for it, and you don't have product to give them. So if you scorch something, so if you screw something up in the process, you're you're toast. You're out thousands of dollars sometimes, and you got to remake it. You got to redo it. Hope you don't get caught. And it's part of that mystique as well. Think about that. I always think about, Popcorn Sutton in the woods. Now everybody knew he was shining. Everybody knew. The police knew. They they stole half of his shine when they raided a place. They knew it was good. So it's like it's I don't even understand. But like to be Popcorn, which I don't want to put him on a pedestal or anything because, he did some crazy shit. I'll just say it. Like he wasn't the best role model for a person. But at the same time, like he tried to do things the best way he could, and he knew the hard work you put in made for a better product on the end. And he could tell you when the moonshine was coming off, what what the moonshine brought. Like like people do with whiskey as well, but with the moonshine, it's a raw spirit, right? So there's nothing that can adulterate it. You're not putting it in a barrel. You're not double casking it. You're not dumping a bunch of sherry in it. You're drinking it as is. Now, yes, there is flavored moonshines, which are great. It's a bunch more sugar and some apple juice in it or whatever. You know what I mean? Apple pie moonshine and oh, good lord, Sugarland, one of the distilleries, has probably 30 different types of moonshine. Blackberry, green apple. Then they have these bourbon moonshine creams, which just sound disgusting to me. Um, if you're really into like strawberry cream, like, dude, that's not even like alcohol. It's dessert at that point. Like, it's probably got 50 grams of sugar in it. That one little pour. Now, would it be good for a cocktail to give it some balance or something? Probably. Uh, and they're probably 30% alcohol at that. But getting off on a tangent, I'm sorry. But so Popcorn, when he was out in the field, and okay, a moonshiner, you don't have to use Popcorn as an example. A moonshiner, when he was out in the field doing the thing, right? He had to be aware of everything, everything. Not only running his still, which by that point, he's got it nailed down. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's doing it by taste and sight and smell and all the things. They didn't have hydrometers and alcohol meters and all that stuff. No, they didn't have nothing. You tasted it. Did it taste good or does it taste harsh or does it taste like a wet dog or something like that? That's how they cut. You know what I mean? That's how they cut. But also, with all of that, they also had to watch out for their water. Like if they're pulling water, like let's say they have a pump, or it's like a electric pump or whatever. I don't know how they have electricity, but anyway, or they're diverting the stream to the still. They got to make sure it stays wet. You know what I mean? They got to make sure that water stays cold, stays flowing, all of those things. And also, they have to make sure that it doesn't build up too much pressure from the heat, right? And blow the top off of it. I mean, people could die from that. Now, if you know what you're doing, then you know what you're doing, right? You don't get new moonshiners out in the woods out there like, oh, see what this looks like. No, you can't. You can't. You have to know what you're doing. And let's say you are a home distiller, for instance, and you're working on a 10-gallon pot, and then you upgrade to a 500-gallon still in the middle of the woods. That's a little bit different. You know what I mean? It's not the same. It is not the same. So I am so intrigued with the old school moonshiners, the way they used to do it, the way they used to get their finished product out of something that was so rushed and so because time is money. The longer they're out there, the more chance of them to get busted, right? So it's very, very time consuming, but it's also they have to be on a schedule and they have to know and obviously they might pay the cops off or something like that. I don't know that. I don't know anything about that part of it, but I would think that, like, if you were a known moonshiner in your city, town, municipality, parish, wherever you're at, I don't know. If you're a known moonshiner, which it's kind of like Fight Club. You know what I mean? It's kind of like Fight Club. We don't talk about it. I get you a bottle, but we don't talk about it. You want a bottle? I get you a bottle, but you give the money to that guy, and then he gives it to me. Right? That's how they have to do it, because if you're direct to consumer and you're a illicit moonshiner, boy, that's a one-way ticket to jail, brother. Seriously. So you have to have people you can trust as well. Well, you get somebody liquored up. I'm being 100 on this. You get somebody liquored up, they'll do whatever the cops say. If they feel like they're going to get busted or whatever, I'll throw you under the jail or whatever. Like, they will rat you out in a minute without even a second guess. You know what I mean? So you have to find people that you really, really trust to do that. And that's why in today, now there is, yes, I guarantee you there are still moonshiners out there right now making moonshine. Good moonshine. The way that their grandpappy did it, stuff like that. There's still people out there right now doing it. And that's cool. I'm so, and another cool thing about it, and I'm not saying it's 100% American, right? It's not. That people have been moonshining all over the world, but it is an American story, because it really started hitting once Prohibition hit and people couldn't go and buy whiskey. You want whiskey? I'll make you some whiskey in the backyard. Let's go, right? That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Okay, so let's switch gears. All right, we're going to switch gears a little bit. What moonshine has a certain place in history and the world, in the modern world as well. But what they have done to moonshine, to the even the nomenclature of it, I think I don't want to say they've ruined it, but they've ruined the how do you say it? The good parts of it. It was supposed to be rebellious. It was supposed to be like, we don't give a crap. We're going to do this anyway. Because this is not to get on a tangent about this, but taxation is theft. The whole reason we got away from England was because they were taxing us so much. Taxation without representation, right? So we build America, right? And our forefathers said that we're not going to do that. We're not going to. And guess what? We're taxed even more. 3-tier systems are taxed 3 different times. Actually 4, because then you pay sales tax. Get off that soapbox for a second. But I don't blame the moonshiners one bit. And here's the reason why. That rebel spirit that is in all of us. I feel it. You feel it. I hope you feel it. That we're like, man, screw you. I'm not doing that. I'm not playing those games. We're not doing that. That's moonshine. That's moonshine. And that's what it should be. It shouldn't be banana cream pie moonshine, right? It shouldn't be strawberry cheesecake milkshake moonshine. It shouldn't be that. Now, I'm not saying they're not good. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure they're fine. But moonshine is supposed to be something you get a clear mason jar of some stuff, and you're like, okay, fire about to happen. And moonshine is also, I feel, drank differently. Moonshine, I feel, again, this is personal, I feel is more of you're sitting around a campfire. I don't know why you're always sitting around a campfire, but you are. I don't know why. This moonshine is not something you drink with dinner. Let's just say it like that. You don't pour a glass of moonshine like it's a, Merlot or something. No, you don't do that. You take a pull straight out of the mason jar around, hanging out with somebody in the woods. That's how I feel. Either you're camping or you're, whatever. It doesn't matter. You get what I'm saying, though. Whereas whiskey, now we're moving to whiskey, right? Whiskey is made for the conversation as well, similar to moonshine, right? But moonshine, you kind of take shots. I hate to say it, but you kind of take shots. You can sip it, I guess, and maybe you can't take shots. Maybe it's too harsh. You have to, sip it. But at the same time, there's not much complexity there. So therefore, you're drinking it for the alcohol content. Does that make sense? Whereas whiskey, which we have moved on to, this is actually the last of the blackened whiskey that we had back in the Whiskey and Music Part 2. It's amazing. I need to find a bottle of it. If anybody knows where I can get a bottle of blackened Madeira rum cask, because there's so many different things that are going on, in a whiskey. Like already, my taste buds are alive with all the different notes, like the caramel, the vanilla, that rumminess, which is sugar, right? So it's like it's very similar, but it's not. It's not at all. It's not. I don't know how to say it. It is apples and oranges at this point. Can you enjoy moonshine? Absolutely. You can acquire a taste for moonshine like that Tim Smith moonshine. It was okay. It wasn't great. I don't want to sit down and have a glass of it. The last little bit in there, I just kind of hocked it back. I'm not going to pour it out, right? You get what I'm saying? I'm not going to pour it out. But at the same time, it's not something I want to sit with and something that I want to like nose and sip on for an hour or whatever. It's not that. It's not that. Whereas whiskey, on the other hand, is. You put it in a Glencairn, right? Or a whiskey glass. It doesn't have to be a Glencairn. And you nose it. You pull it apart. Whereas moonshine, there's nothing to pull apart. It's brittle, it's bitey. And then on the taste, it has a little corn sweetness, which is nice. But then it finishes up with that brittleness at the end. And it's not really pleasing to my palate. Now, I have had illicit moonshine. Yeah, I've had some. And I can say of the one that I've had actually a couple. There was one that I had that was super harsh. You could barely drink it, but it was 150, 148 proof or something like that. So you get what you get, right? But then at the same time, the other one I had, I think they proofed it down to 45. It was really nice and mellow. It had some really nice, I don't know how to say it, like maybe some fruity notes with it. I wasn't able to ask the maker what it was made of. It was just like, hey, here's some moonshine. And I have been so lucky we've done a podcast with him as well, with Jesse from Still It, right? And he is a moonshiner. He's a home distiller, so to speak, but he's in New Zealand where it's 100% legal. And I'm not getting into the legalities of moonshining and stuff like that. That's not this episode, right? We've talked about it in the past. That's not this episode. Should it be legal everywhere? Absolutely. And here's the reason, and then I'm done with it. I can make, at my house right now, I can make 100 gallons of beer or wine legally. Do you know how drunk you could get on 100 gallons of wine? The same drunk that you can get on 100 gallons of moonshine or homemade whiskey or whatever you want to call it, right? you still get the same drunk. The alcohol content is higher, obviously. So that's all it is. They said they say in the guidelines that once you distill it, it becomes a safety hazard. But I don't know if you guys have ever had a homemade beer before. Some of them are absolutely disgusting. They're gross and potentially dangerous, right? Because if you don't know your fermentations, if you don't know how to ferment correctly, if you get bugs or whatever, and by bugs I mean like outside influence stuff in your beer, it can ruin it and sour it and make it gross. Now, is it going to kill you? Probably not. It's going to make you feel like crap, but it probably won't kill you, and it'll taste like crap. Moonshine, the whole thing is the methanol, right? Oh, you're going to go blind. You're going to do the thing. The amount of methanol. I'm sorry, soapbox time. The amount of methanol that comes off of moonshine, especially, is minimal to none. We're talking on a 500-gallon run, maybe a quart. And you would have to drink that entire quart plus 4 more. And by the time you finish drinking those, you would be throwing up because you're drunk, not because you've gone blind from ethanol. That's just it. Now, high heads cut ethanol is gross. Don't get me wrong, it's gross, but it's not going to kill you. It's going to make you sick because it has a lot of congeners, which we've talked about in the past. It can make you sick, but it's not going to make you die or lose your eyesight or nothing like that. So there is a lot of like scary to moonshine as well. I'm like, oh no, don't drink that. You're going to go blind. Okay. You're going to go into liver failure before you go blind. Just saying. Rant over. That whiskey is so good, man. It's a rye, man. I've really been digging rye whiskey lately. Like, really been digging it. I don't know what it is. It's the herbal note, but like not this one particularly is not as herbal. It's more like eucalyptus-y, and it's super good. And then I feel like the Madeira really kind of gives it a sweetness, and then the rum comes in there and it's kind of funky. There's a little funkiness to it. Really great. Okay, so in conclusion, in wrap up, should you go and buy a bottle of moonshine off the shelf for, let's say it's $30, right? I don't know how much moonshine is on the shelf to use as a comparison. You guys are whiskey nerds at this point, right? But if you've followed me for 5 freaking minutes, you're a whiskey nerd. I do. I think you should have moonshine, a bottle, one. Tim Smith's one's not bad. I have some clear whiskey from JJ, my buddy JJ Jackson. That outpost that he made, man, that's really good. It's good stuff. That's sipping whiskey, right? I can sit down with that and sip it. But that's not moonshine, right? That's not moonshine. Should you go to try and find some outside the liquor store? I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm not going to say yes or no on that. But it's one of those things where, like, understanding alcohol in itself and understanding the differences of them. Like, that's why I don't want to get into brandy. I don't want to get into rum. I don't want to get into cognac is brandy, but you know what I mean. Like, I get the influence of these things, but like, there is so much to do in whiskey. So much. Like, holy crap. There's so many whiskeys out there to be had. I don't want to be like, oh, I tried this tequila. Well, tequila's not even whiskey adjacent. Yeah, they age it in barrels every once in a while, but like it's not even the same. Rum, similar, but not really. Brandy, again, similar, but not really. Are they good? I'm sure. I'm sure. Look, going back to my story earlier, I actually went to Round Mountain Distilling. Yeah, I did. And I was able to pick up a bottle of their reserve. Now, my buddy Marshall from Rough Spirits, he said that the 16, batch 16 or barrel 16, whatever, was better than 15. Well, I got to try 15 straight from the barrel, right? It was pretty freaking good, not gonna lie. And what did the guy do? This is the head distiller, the owner of the company. He goes, "Here, take that over here." He put it in a plastic, like a water cup, right? He put the rum in a plastic water cup, took it over to his desk. He had some ice. He put like 3 ice cubes in it. He said, "Swirl that around for a minute and then drink it." Whiskey people don't do that. Whiskey people don't do that. They're like, "Here, try this cast strength whiskey, 135 proof. Try this and don't cough or don't be like, oh, no, it's so good." That's the thing. Rum people are different. They're like, "Here, try this on a rock. Try this $100 whiskey in a cocktail. Let's do that." I actually had a rum old fashioned while I was there. So good. Mhm. It really was. I picked up a bottle of Smith and Cross rum, which we're not talking about rum, and I haven't opened it yet, but I'm thinking it would be great for cocktails. And I know all you rum lovers out there are going to be like, "What the hell are you doing, bro?" Here's the thing. I'm going to drink it neat. I'm going to have a neat pour of it. I'm going to analyze it. I'm going to do the thing, but I'm going to drink it in cocktails. Sorry. That's just what it is. So, getting back to whiskey versus moonshine or moonshine versus whiskey. Is it a fair fight? Let's talk about that for a second. Is this a fair fight? It's like, was it Jake Paul and Mike Tyson? That's what it's like. Moonshine has its place. Moonshine is a thing, and it should be treated with respect. But whiskey comes out swinging, and it knows it. So take that for what it is. I don't know if you might love moonshine. You might love it. And if you do, more power to you. And if you guys in the comments know of any good commercial moonshines out there, I got the Tim Smith one because he was on Moonshiners, right? I mean, he's a good old boy type thing. Let me know. And I'm not talking white dog. I'm not talking white whiskey. I'm not talking unaged spirit before they put it in a barrel. I'm talking moonshine. Moonshine. Because a lot of distilleries sell their white dog, right? Which is unaged new make, is what they call it. I'm not talking that because that's going to be different than moonshine. Moonshine has the additive of sugar to it. So take that for what it is. So, yeah, if anybody knows of any out there commercially that I might be able to find, I would be willing to do a side by side comparison. I would. I don't have a problem with it. Okay. I'm going to leave it at this. We are right at the hour mark. So I'm going to do my little shameless plugs here at the end. So y'all get ready. I want to thank Bad Motivated Barrels. Yeah. Chris, he's doing some amazing things as always. I can't wait. He's doing a larger barrel. Yeah. Whatever. Let's go. Yeah, it gets pretty crazy with him because he has cherry wood influence. He has old uh, bourbon barrels, all kinds of stuff. So if you're into something like that, my Infinity barrel is doing freaking amazing. I need to sample it again. Maybe I'll do that here in a little bit. I need to sample it again because it's getting really good and it's hot as hell. It's probably 85 degrees in the shed right now. So I'm sweating for you guys. You know what I mean? Sweat. All right, let's move on. Z. Smith Whiskey and Mixology. You know Zach. He's an amazing guy. He's doing cocktail curations. He does a cocktail of the week on his posts, and I try to tag him all the time. Repost his stuff on Instagram, Facebook, all those places. Go check him out. And if you guys want to support monetarily, I'm going to change the structure of Patreon. This is a first for y'all, to where there's a lower tier and even lower than the low tier, to where if you just want, to help out a little bit. I understand, like, my content isn't for everybody. I get that. But if it is something that you're enjoying and it's something that you want to help, uh, I really need to get a different camera. I really want to kind of upgrade my equipment around here, and with monetary help, it obviously helps out. So if you want to, patreon.com/the whiskey shaman is where you go, and I'll have all that pinned down below. You know that. So yeah, is Moonshine a fair fight against whiskey? Probably not. Probably not. But I feel like it was a fun time. And I also feel like I did fairly well with the ums and ahs, right? There was a couple times. I know that. I saw it. I don't know if I'll edit them out. I just want you to know that I'm aware of it, and I'm really trying to work on thinking about what I say before I say it. So, uh, until next time, I guess we're gonna end it. No, I appreciate you. I love you guys, and you guys are the best. Obviously, keep up the good work. Keep your spirits up, right? And just think about subscribing, liking, obviously, but doing a 5-star review on this podcast really helps. It helps the algorithm. I have like 2. Like, I would really like to get a couple more, to where people, because it helps people in the podcast realm see my content a little more. If you don't want to support monetarily, I understand. But if you could give me a 5-star review, you can say whatever you want on the review as long as it's 5 stars. Does that make sense? Because it just goes against the algorithm. That's all it does. End of rant. End of story. Whiskey's better than moonshine. We already knew that, but it's fine. I had fun. I hope you did too. And until next time, keep your spirits up.